Welcome to today's presentation, Israel's Solution for a Water-Starved World, organized by the New England Israel Business Council and the Bird Foundation, the Binational Israel-US R&D Foundation. This program is co-sponsored by the Israel Initiative and the Asper Center for Global Entrepreneurship at the International Business School. I'm Debbie Barakman, and I'm here in the classroom with students in our Global Markets Israel class at Brandeis International Business School. This is a half-semester course focused on the drivers of entrepreneurship and innovation in the dynamic Israeli startup ecosystem. These 25 students are participating in the Hassenfeld Immersion Program and will travel to Israel for 9 days in late May to meet with business leaders and experience the vibrant startup culture. I would now like to introduce Professor Ben Gomez-Caceres, Director of the Asper Center for Global Entrepreneurship, to say a few words about our Business of Climate Change program, of which today's presentation is a part. Thank you all for participating.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Debbie, and thank you all for coming. This is the second year we're doing this particular session. We did an excellent one last year with Bird and some of the participants that we have today. Welcome back, and the others that are new, welcome to Brandeis. And this is indeed part of a week-long, more than a week-long, Business of Climate Change event or series. And we started that 3 years ago. And basically what we want our students to understand is that whatever they're doing in business, whether it's startups or they're in technology, or they're doing finance, or they're doing data analytics or marketing, any one of those functions is going to be important to solving the climate change challenge. And so their businesses, whatever we end up having in the future, is going to have to deal with a lot of challenges and opportunities, we hope too. So in this particular week, we focus on various business aspects. And this particular session is great because we love to see new technology come to life, new technology be tested, new technology transfer borders. And I hear that's really what this is about. So Dan Treiman and NEIBC has been a partner with us for several years now in this as well as in other events. And so Dan, nice to have you back, and thank you for bringing this to our doorstep. And we look forward to a good conversation. So thank you. Shalom, Toda Rabba, and Chag Sameach.
Thank you very much, Ben.
Yes,
and,
very good. Okay.
Thanks for the Brandeis University to collaborate with us. My name is Dan Treiman, and I run the NEIBC, which is New England Israel Business Council. It stands for, or its mission in life is to strengthen the business relationship between Israel and Massachusetts. And we believe that if our business relationship, the world is going to be much better. And before I'm going to start my presentation, I would like to give a chance to the two other members of the panel to introduce themselves. And Andrea, can you say a few words about yourself and about the company?
It's nice to be here with all of you, at least virtually. Would be great to come and visit Brandeis and meet all the students and everyone in person. I represent Bird Foundation. As I always say, nothing to do with birds, not technically a foundation, but it's an acronym by National Industrial Research and Development. It's technically a federally funded R&D program between the US and Israel with the mission of supporting joint development of innovative technologies in all areas. Today, we're going to focus on the important area of the climate change and climate emergency. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Andrea. Daniel, the floor is yours.
My name's Daniel Cho. I represent the startup company component of this panel. I'm the founder and CEO of Onvector, which is a plasma-based water treatment technology company. And I'll be, during my time sharing about the company as well as our technology and, the relationship that we were able to form with an Israeli-based company called Netaphim thanks to the Bird Foundation and our project that's been sponsored by the Bird Foundation.
Thank you, Danielle. And I'm going to share my presentation with everybody. Basically, there are two components to the entire session today. I'm going to give you an overall background, a little bit about the world problems, but how Israel solved their own water problems for the last 80 years. And then Andrea and Daniel will focus on specific project, how it's being done. It's a current project from a business point of view, from a technology point of view, and from funding point of view. And that will happen once I'm done with my short talk. Let's move right on. These slides relate to the overall water world and the water problem that we are facing. We don't think about it on every day, but it's looming and it's coming. It's if we are not going to change our management or water management as we're doing it today, within 10 years, the demand from fresh water will exceed the supply by 40%. This is huge. If you look at the map on the right, bottom right side of the slide, was done by the CIA. Everything that is greenish to red, it means it's underwater stress. And you see it's, 70% of the world. So what are the drivers to creating this water stress? For sure, the elephant in the room is climate change. But it's not only that. We are helping with our behavior. We are helping climate change. We spoil our waters. We don't, fix our leaks. And the population is growing dramatically, which means the demand on water is huge. If from now until 2050, the population will grow by 25% to about 10 billion, and the middle class will grow at that pace, the pressure on fresh water will grow, as you see there, by at least 40–50%. And the reason is, if you take just the middle class, it's being a middle class is changing your behavior. So you consume more meat, you consume more water in your bathroom, you consume more energy which require water, you consume more processed food which require water, and so forth. So we as a world, we need to do something about it. And at least some of the solution we can find in Israel, and which I'll share with you later on. On this slide, what I would like to share with you, how we're using our water. And 12% on the left-hand side, 12% is being used by municipalities, 19% by industries, and basically every industry uses water, and close to 70% is used by agriculture, but it used only by 20% of the farmers or the arable land. 80% of the land is being cultivated with a prayer book at hand and hoping for the rain to come down at the right time, at the right quantity and the right pace. And you know what? Climate change doesn't help that 80%. Actually, it's going to make it worse. But even the 20% is being used unsmartly. Only 6% of the 20 is being used by advanced technologies, which is micro irrigation or drip irrigation. The rest is using wasteful systems, flood irrigation and sprinklers. By the way, the flood irrigation is not a new technology. It was invented 6,000 years ago. And by the way, if you ask where it was invented here, along the Fertile Crescent. You see that area? Just to give you a sense, Crimea is over here, in the news a lot. This is Crimea over here on the top. Egypt, Israel, Turkey at the top, Iraq, and Iran. But along those rivers, the Nile, and the Euphrates, that's where the Western civilization was started close to 10,000 years, when our forefathers decided not to gather, not to hunt anymore, but settle down and work the fields and raise cattle. And they use flood irrigation for that. And we are still, unfortunately, we are still using it. By the way, for reference, this is where Israel is. And you see the valley, the Jordan Valley to the right, and the Mediterranean to the left. And at the bottom, you see quite a watershed moment for the local Jewish community in the land of Israel. It was under the British mandate, under the British Empire rule. And they decided for political reason in the mid-30s to limit the immigration of Jews to Israel. So like any other Jewish guy, people said, you know what, we are going to show you that you are mistaken. But from a reference point of view, at that time, the population of the land of Israel between the Jordan Valley and the Mediterranean was 1 million. Today, between the Jordan Valley and the Mediterranean, there are 15 million, and they are water independent. So how did it happen, throughout those 80 years? And here you see that slide, the timeline from the mid-30s all the way to the present day through different projects of a national water carrier, invention of the drip irrigation, wastewater treatment, desalination, and so forth. And I'm not going to go through the drivers, you can read through them, but I think the key drivers to the success, of course, necessity, but the national view on how important water is. It's a matter of national security. It also, a lot of luck played a role in that process. And I want to mention two people that almost nobody knows about them, but their innovation really helped Israel and now the world to succeed in replenishment of water and usage of water. Simcha Blas was the founder of Mekorot, but about 20 years later, there was some argument within the organization, and he resigned with the hope that they'll call him back. But you know what? He didn't. They didn't. So he was out of a job and was thinking of what to do. And then he remembered that 20 years earlier, he was walking along a field and saw about 20 trees of the same type and that were planted at the same time, but only one of those trees grew double the size. And a few days later, as he came back with a shovel, dug around the tree and found out there is a pipe, metal pipe go through, and there was a hole in the pipe, it was dripping. And that was the cause for that tree to grow double in size compared to the rest of the trees. That idea came back to him 20 years later, and not having a job, he said, you know what, let's develop something and see how we can deal with it. And he was the innovator of the modern drip irrigation system, and which is, I don't know, probably $30 billion business today by a number of companies. One of them that acquired that innovation from him in the mid-60s. And I'll mention that company later on in more detail, and actually Daniel mentioned it briefly in his presentation, in his remarks earlier. The other gentleman is an interesting as Simcha. He's an American Jewish guy that invented a membrane that really changed the reverse osmosis process. And for the sake of those who do not understand reverse osmosis, there is a GIMP down below at the bottom of the slide. It's basically using forced water through a membrane. The membrane clean the dirt and the salt and the minerals from the water, and the other side you have clean water. What the membrane task is if it's a good membrane, is to have a good clean, but also not tax the energy, so it will be energy efficient, which makes the whole process more profitable or profitable at all. So you can do it. So we need to thank those two guys, and maybe remember those names as game changers, not just only in Israel, but as well in the wide world as well. Those are some data points regarding the water achievements in Israel. On the left-hand side, you see number of desalinated plants that were built between 1997 and 2010 all over the world. 4 of them are Israelis with the open bars, and 3 of the Israelis are the largest in the world in terms of capacity. But also you can see the height, the smaller the bar, the more efficient is the desalination plant. That's a major achievement. By the way, the inventor of the membrane, Sydney, was able to see his first major desalination plant, this one that I showed, the Ashkelon one, going to production. By the way, Simcha Blad managed to get some royalties and some money out of his invention. Sydney was not able to do any of that. The innovation time expired before he was able to make people use his innovation. The graph on the right-hand side is the use of clean water, wastewaters. And you see Israel is about 86% recycling the wastewater compared to some European countries and Australia as well on the right, which is very low. Another data point is the bottom right is the decrease in per capita consumption of renewable fresh natural water. Even though the population grew from close to 3 million to 9 million, like 3 times, the decrease was 5-fold over that period of time. Let's move to the Israeli technology field, which resemble many other technology fields in Israel. There are about 170 companies in the field. You can see here the breakdown in terms of number of companies and the segment. Here is quite a sporadic investment. It's not a field that is popular as cybersecurity or fintech. But on the other hand, the entrepreneurs get some rewards on their effort, and you can see it on the right-hand side. I picked up 2 companies to talk about to give you an illustration of the technology and the advanced technology that water technologies use. One is the Wind, small company, has an office in the Boston area. And the way I'm going to try to show you is a video.
Water leaks. They can cause significant damage, disrupt business operations, and cost a lot to repair. We're also regularly wasting water. Typically, more than 25% of water just goes to waste. Introducing WINT, Water Intelligence, an advanced water monitoring solution that uses artificial intelligence to reduce water waste and detect and stop leaks at their source. WINT devices monitor water flow in key locations and communicate with the cloud over the cellular network. The system continuously analyzes water flow and uses artificial intelligence to identify anomalies, waste, and leaks. It sends instant alerts to sustainability and facility management teams, enabling them to attend to leaks in real time, pinpoint their source, and automatically shut off water valves if needed. The WINT solution also delivers detailed analytics, reports, and deep insights for close monitoring of water consumption and water conservation. Stop water waste, prevent water damage with artificial intelligence. WINT, Water Intelligence.
The second company that I would like to share with you is Netaphim. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through 2 videos, one after the other. The first video is talking about the actual system, which is the device that help the dripper to work. And the second slide, the second video, will talk about the overall system. Just a few data points on the Netaphim itself. Is the #1 irrigation in the world, irrigation company in the world. Market share about 30%, $1 billion sales, 5,000 employees working for the company, and it's came out of a kibbutz down in the south called Hatzerim. So I'm going to stop sharing this and go to the first video.
Netaphim's drippers are designed with a unique patented labyrinth that reduces water pressure and ensures accurate and uniform delivery of water and nutrients. To maintain uniform irrigation over time, a dripper must be resistant to clogging. This is especially true in harsh water conditions and when delivering nutrients together with water.
And the last video that I'm going to share with you is about the management system.
In a world where everything is digitally connected, innovation is no longer a nice to have. Moving faster than ever before and taking action in real time is a matter of win or lose. Everything around us, cars, cities, ports, farms, even our bodies, are all connected. So what is your response? How will you discover new opportunities in one of the most transformational times in human history? Are you driving change, or are you being driven by it? Once upon a time, business as usual was often good enough. Where we are going, good enough no longer exists. We are proud to present Netapheme Netbeat, the only fully integrated irrigation management solution able to combine monitoring, controlling, and optimization in real time. It all begins with standard sensors in the field that measure and collect data about soil, plant, and water conditions. Data from the field also includes readings of pressure and flow in the pipes. The data they collect is transmitted through a central field unit to the main control unit. This transmission is done using advanced low-power radio communications up to 10 kilometers in range. The main control unit is an independent, intelligent multi-line unit that can manage irrigation and nutrigation programs. It can communicate via cellular, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth. The main control unit sends real-time data from the field to a unique cloud solution. The cloud contains more than 50 years of agronomical and hydraulic knowledge. Simultaneously, the cloud receives data from external sources such as weather forecast and satellite images. The cloud then analyzes all this data and converts it into optimal irrigation recommendations and alerts that are sent directly to the farmer's smartphone with a simple, user-friendly interface. Now the farmer can make a decision and deploy concrete actions in real time. This decision is transmitted back to the main controller to operate valves and dosing units based on the optimized recommendations. The actions are executed even in the most remote field units using the advanced low-power radio. This unique integrated solution guarantees the farmer optimized use of resources, maximized yield, profitability, and ultimately, peace of mind of knowing the crop is growing optimally year after year. Netapheme Netbeat. Prepare for tomorrow, today.
Take a look at that. Netaphim was smart enough not to try to develop in-house things they know very little about. So they went outside of the company to ask somebody else to develop the command and control software that they're using. It happens to be the same company that developed the command and control for the Iron Dome system. But the reason I'm telling you about that they went out of the company to ask for help from somebody else. And his name is Daniel. And Daniel is going to take over and tell us the story about how Netaphim is working with him to do something new. And with that, I'll hand over the microphone to Daniel.
So as Dan said, we've been collaborating with Netaphim, and I'll be sharing a little bit about our company, which is a startup clean tech or water tech company, and our technology. Then I'll get into our joint project with Netaphim. But I'll say just that on the onset, this wouldn't have been possible without the Berg Foundation. So Andrea is also in this meeting, and she'll be sharing about how the Berg Foundation works. But in a nutshell, we were able to do this cross-border collaboration with Netaphim because of the introductions and the resources provided by the Berg Foundation. So thanks so much, Andrea, and to the Berg Foundation for your support. Am I sharing my screen okay? You guys can see?
Yeah.
So as I said, my name's Dan Chu. I'm the founder and CEO of Onvector. We're a developer of plasma water treatment technologies, and I'll be sharing about our company and our technology. It's a small team of 6 people. We're located outside of Boston, and also we have a plasma lab outside of Philadelphia. My background was previously in medical devices in cardiovascular diagnostics, but around 15 years ago, I started consulting in water tech, and I advised some industrial companies like Pentair and GE Water about new market evaluations and product development. And through the course of that, I saw a need for more robust water treatment systems, essentially that can reduce the cost of treatment in a way that's chemical free, and ended up forming Onvector as a multidisciplinary team focused on plasma. The problem that we set out to solve really is the high cost of treating the most contaminated water. So, the most polluted industrial waste streams ultimately have to be incinerated. And that is extraordinarily costly from a logistics perspective because of the transportation to centralized locations, as well as the emissions and the water loss that's associated with these types of practices. So that was really the pain point that we initially set out to address. And really, high strength wastewater, industrial process and wastewater is ubiquitous, right? Not only in manufacturing of consumer products and electronics, petrochemical, chemical refining, but also in the emerging contaminants arena. There are new pollutants like 1,4-dioxane and PFAS, forever chemicals, that are gaining a lot of attention as emerging contaminants. And then, of course, there's a special arena in the extraordinarily high water requirements of irrigation. Our technology is electrification powered. So, in an increasingly renewable world, you'll have essentially clean energy powering your water treatment. It's largely chemical free, and it enables on-site treatment in a decentralized way, reducing the logistical costs. So the applications are numerous, and plasma has these certain categorical benefits. What is plasma? Plasma is the fourth state of matter, not the clear part of your blood that we're talking about, but from a physics perspective, you have solid, liquid, gas, and then plasma, like the sun is a plasma, lightning, nebulas. Plasmas are formed when you energize a gas to the point where some of the electrons start falling off, and it becomes luminous and reactive, and has many, many helpful properties. Most lighting these days are plasmas, the old plasma TVs, and plasmas are used to manufacture semiconductors, uniform deposition on surfaces. So gas plasmas are increasingly ubiquitous. Liquid plasmas in liquids are actually very, very hard because water is electrically conductive. So there's this short circuit quenching effect. Our technology, this is our lead technology, plasma Vortex, which essentially is a cyclone, and water enters tangentially at the top and spins down, and then it turns at the bottom where gas is injected, and that gas is ionized. It's exposed to a voltage gradient, and you have fire, essentially light arc lightning that's generated, and this liquid gas plasma mixture exists at the center top of this reactor. So you can see, hopefully a little video of it working. It's flowing 5 to 20 gallons a minute. Our largest systems flow 90 gallons a minute. And that's a cyclone. That's a reliable arc lightning inside water. Our developmental timeline has included the formation of joint development agreements with a residential filtration company, a leading ion exchange company, and then also a drip irrigation company. Our business model is to combine our technology together with market leaders and then leverage their sales and distribution capabilities and piggybacking off of that in a licensing and exclusive distribution approach. We've also been awarded a number of grants and projects from the Department of Agriculture and the Air Force, as well as the Byrd Foundation. So I just want to zero in on this agricultural application of our technology and our project with the Byrd Foundation and Netaphim. It's a very simplistic little drawing, but just to give you a sense, as Dan was saying, drip irrigation was invented by Simcha Blas. You know, I mean, he's not as famous as David Ben-Gurion, but I consider him to be one of the founders of modern Israel. I mean, he invented this practice that has driven innovation and essentially the irrigation of a desert. And by directing water to the roots of plants, you get rid of evaporation loss and runoff, and you're essentially able to create greater yield with between 50 to 90% less water. So it's extraordinarily water efficient. Of course, there's some capital expense that you have to incur to install these lines and the systems, but surely this practice can just continue to grow. Of 12 billion acres of land in the world, which is like 38% of the total land mass on Earth that's used for agriculture. 1/3 of that is cropland, and 2/3 of that is agricultural grazing. And then of the 1/3 of all available agricultural land that's used for growing crops, only 5-6% of it is irrigated using drip irrigation, right? So it's an extremely small amount of land, and this is certainly going to grow to a much more a larger portion of the total irrigated cropland. And Netaphim controls around 30% of that market, and they are the inventor of the practice. Essentially, when you look at the water treatment needs in irrigation, that labyrinthine channel, the dripper or the emitter, is liable for pressure losses and clogging because of biofilm and sedimentation that's grown, and hydrogen peroxides and hypochlorite, Clorox are sometimes used to eliminate biofilm and biofouling. And the need for a black box, which is completely controllable by automation and electrification, is something that I think a leader like Netaphim understands, and that's really at the heart of this collaboration to create a tool that eliminates plant pathogens, but really is non-chemical, physics-based, a smart water treatment method that keeps these drippers clean, extending the life of the emitter technology, as well as eliminating compliance issues on the part of the farmers who only turn on their peroxide once they have blockages. So there are numerous business benefits that we're targeting in this joint development effort. The program that we have ongoing with the Byrd Foundation initially evaluated a number of different plasma geometries. The cyclone is a little bit more complex than you would want to use in a farm type of application. We evaluated multiple different hardware geometry designs through the course of the early stage of the project, and we tested 2 different approaches: a sparking filter and a tubular disinfection channel, both lit up with plasma. Neither of those worked effectively, and we ended up using this plasma Venturi approach, which is working great. We've tested it in the laboratory and are beginning field tests in the farm in Israel, and eventually in the Central Valley in California. We anticipate doing many more extensive tests together with Netaphim. So this is the plasma Venturi technology. No compressor is needed. It's a simple series of channels where suction is created by the flow of water itself, and then that envelope of gas that is sucked in using the Venturi effect is lit up using a voltage gradient, and you have essentially arc lightning inside of an elegant little Venturi design that can disinfect water out in irrigation applications. Here's the prototype. You can see, essentially water's entering tangentially again, creating a Venturi effect due to the changes in the cross-sectional area. And then your power electronics provides you, with anywhere between 0.2 to 5 kilowatts of power, depending if you're on a cleaning mode or a maintenance mode. And that can be totally modulated by the sensors, the cloud-based smart irrigation technology that Dan mentioned. So if you detect a pressure loss or biological some sensor is detecting some growth, just increase plasma power, and enter into cleaning mode, and all of that can be automated. So you can see, I think, this is really where the puck is going from, like used to use the hockey analogy in terms of the combination of information technology and clean tech electromechanical innovation. Laboratory tests are showing great promise, greater than 1 log reduction per pass through the plasma system, and bacterial deactivation and disinfection is being produced by the creation of UV, ozone, peroxides, and other plasma generated radicals. That's a little bit of the background of our system, and I think you can imagine that the applications of this technology will be quite broad. In Israel, as Dan mentioned, 80+% of the wastewater, the sewage, is being recycled. In other countries like Spain, that number is increasing. California, it recycles around 10% of its effluent, and most of that goes to recharging the aquifer, or with tertiary treatment can be used in reservoirs. That practice is bound to increase dramatically. Because of the mega drought, because of the drought types of conditions that are being experienced out west, and these are very fertile farmlands. So by combining drip irrigation and new technology that makes drip irrigation more cost effective, together with wastewater recycling, I think we can envision real solutions being created for these climate-driven droughts out west and other types of climate crises, just overcome through the power of these types of innovations. And I think that the collaboration with market leaders is a linchpin for us in being able to develop working solutions for these types of markets. We're, like I said, outside of Boston and Philadelphia, and it's a small dynamite little team, but we're going to need to work with business innovators as well as technology innovators. So we're pleased to connect with the Brandeis School and this program, just to share a little bit about our technology and our work. Well, I'll just hand it over directly to Andrea Yona from the Bird Foundation so that she could share about their programs. Thank
you, Daniel. When I first lived in Israel, my mother-in-law used to she did her own water reuse of the water from her washing machine, which she used to flush the toilet, and her sink water, which she also put into the same bucket for flushing the toilet, which was it was very good solution, but it really made the whole apartment smell badly. But everyone in Israel was always very careful and would always get mad at us Americans, who they felt would always waste water in shower, since we kept the water on. But back to the Bird Foundation. So BIRD is an acronym by National Industrial Research and Development. It's a federally funded R&D program that's been around actually for 45 years. Was started back in 1977. I'll give a little bit of information about how the program works. Ultimately, the important thing to understand about BIRD is that it is a collaboration. It's all about collaboration. It's all about sharing in the risk between the countries and between the companies. It is an endowment. 50% of the money came from the US government, 50% from the Israeli government, started with this $110 million endowment. And we partner with the two companies to match the development dollars going into projects. We can put in up to $1 million per project. Now we can even put, in some cases, up to $1.5 million. And that is 50% of the combined project budget of the two companies that are working together. The other part of the risk share is that successful projects pay forward for other projects. So that if a project is successful, they repay us. It's non-dilutive. They're not giving us any equity or IP. It's repaid in royalties if it's successful. It's also capped. And if it's not successful for whatever reason, there is no repayment at all, and then it's just a grant. So we call it a conditional grant. We have a board with government representatives from both the US and Israel, State Department, Department of the Treasury, the NIST, which is our co-chair. On the Israeli side, the Israel Innovation Authority, Ministry of the Economy and Finance. It's been a very successful program for the two governments, receiving back already more than we started with. So we're now at over 180 million. And most importantly, $10 billion they were able to calculate in sales that can be attributed to bird projects. And we've also now we've approved over 1,000 projects. We invest in projects in all industry sectors, with the exception only of military specific technologies, which we don't get involved with. You see here that energy, water, and environment is particularly large. There's a reason for that. It's because we got some additional funding through DOE and the Israeli Ministry of Energy to focus specifically on that area. So this is our risk sharing mechanism that I was talking about. Always need two partners, a US side and an Israeli side, that are working together and that are collaborating. They should have, each comes with their own technology, or technology of one being integrated into the platform of another. So we're always looking for that synergy. We have 2 cycles per year. This is what our call for proposals looks like. And you can see here, I can show here where water and wastewater technologies is one of the topics that we highlight. This is our special cycle with the additional funding from the DOE and the Israeli Ministry of Energy. And it's actually coming up. We have a deadline for 2022 of June 30th. For the first phase of the program. And actually in this particular program, a university can work with a company. So it still needs to end in commercialization. It still requires cost share, but it does allow for a university or research institute to be a partner with a company. We have different programs. So I already talked about our energy program. We actually have a Homeland Security program. And we had a one-time program where we received about $40 million to administer through calling it the U.S. Israel Energy Center. It's more in earlier stage research. It's still a public-private partnership. And one of the programs here does relate to water energy nexus. And that's with both universities and companies. So these are the things that we look for. At the end of the day, we want to see high level of innovation. We want to see the synergy. We want to see that the companies know the market and that they have a commercialization strategy for getting there. So lots of benefits, both for the companies. There's also a lot of benefits for the two countries that we've talked about. And finally, I just want to highlight a few projects. We already heard from Dan and the project for Netaphim. One other thing I just want to say, when Bird first started, it was always the large US company working with the Israeli startup. The Israeli companies being less, not as mature, less sophisticated, the US companies being able to guide them and help them to commercialize their technologies and bring it to market. And in the case of Onvector and Netaphim, what I love about it is the fact that we have more of the startup companies on the US side, and Netaphim being the larger global company, sophisticated, and having that access to market and bringing the new technology that Onvector has developed and bringing that to market. But these are a few other ones. This one also with a Massachusetts-based company, Aquametrics and Can-Do from Israel, focusing more on organic wastewater management system for smart cities. Another smart water management program with IOSite, an Israeli company, and the large utility American Water. And finally, just wanted to bring one more example with a also relating to kind of reverse osmosis system between the Israeli company Memtech and the Agar Corporation, which deals more with the separation. It's a separation membrane to separate the oil and the water for the water treatment. So I don't want to get into too much technical details, but just for a flavor of the type of water-related projects that Bird funds. And again, just bringing it all together from this in this particular week, you looked at business and climate change, and what Bird is looking to support is that collaboration. The collaboration between the United States and Israel, and bringing a business case to it, and bringing mutual benefit and economic development, both for the two companies and the two countries through this development of innovative technologies. And in this case, from the Israeli side, Israel has really been the leader in solving their water scarcity problem. And at Bird, we're really proud that we're able to play a part in helping to achieve that. So this, if anybody's interested, we have all of our projects on a database on our website. You can see them by US map, by sector, by year. And I'm here in the US, responsible for the East Coast and Midwest. I sit in New Jersey. And I'm always happy to answer any questions or help companies find partners both in the US and in Israel. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrea. One additional comments regarding the Bird Foundation in Massachusetts. Over 100 projects were awarded to Massachusetts companies over the years. And it's growing quite rapidly in the last 4 or 5 years.
And Dan, on behalf of the NEIBC, represents the Bird Foundation in the state of Massachusetts. So
yes.
You can always go to Dan if you have any companies in Massachusetts. And of course, we work closely together.
We're going to have some of our students come up and ask some questions. And likewise, if there are other participants who have questions, if you could just please raise your hand so we're sure to get your questions in, or you can put them in the chat.
My question maybe is a little bit broad, but obviously Israel is a pioneer and a leader in this. And I was wondering, you said that this is growing really fast. So which other regions or countries are kind of following Israel's path and aligning with Israel and with the United States to work with water shortage? Like which other regions are kind of following, and do you think this kind of trend will expand to them?
I'm not sure if I fully understand the question, but just to touch on a couple things that come to mind is, the first is the #2 drip irrigation company in the world is Indian. It's a company called Jain, Jain. And #1 obviously being Netaphim. They started that space. The water technology world is vast. You need to have essentially custom solutions that meet the water quality requirements of each region, of each site. So you have, you know, a lot of global players and massive segmentation. I think that clearly Israel has taken the lead in certain filtration and membrane and irrigation technologies, but you know, they're not the only player. You know, it's a vast space. You know, that includes, you know, many, you know, multinationals. But to that point, drip irrigation, which was invented in Israel, is growing rapidly and will inevitably, you know, take up more and more market share as these climate trends continue.
As you were saying it, I was thinking to myself, does the technology that you're developing also work in the other irrigation systems? What is it called? The pivot system that they use in the US a lot, in Nebraska and the Midwest.
Right. There's a lot of sprinkler type systems. Yeah. And I would say that the need for our water treatment would be less, given that the propensity for blockages and clogging and the need for more intensive water treatment is also less.
By the way, Daniel, the Indian company that you mentioned also acquired their drip technology from Israel. They acquired another competitive to Netaphim. A bit smaller company, but they did that as well. But I think in terms of technologies, those technologies are, you know, ubiquitous today. And as you said, it can be developed by anybody, at least from the Israeli suppliers. I would say China and India are the best customers, for sure, for Netaphim. Desalination is a different issue, but there are Israeli companies that provide design services and construction services around the world.
I just have a question regarding vertical farming, like how you guys going forward. Vertical farming is growing a lot. Are you guys doing any collaborations in that?
I saw a question pop up in the Q&A that asked me what my favorite bird project was, and I kind of resent the question because it's like asking somebody who their favorite child is. So I'm just gonna say my favorite is Dan. This is the Onvector project because Dan is here and because I really like him. But another project that I really like is our vertical agriculture project. So when you asked, the question was if we have supported anything in vertical agriculture, and the answer is yes. And we have this really cool project in New Jersey, in Newark, New Jersey, downtown Newark. It's a company called Aero Farms. It's also called Just Green. And they have a really cool vertical agriculture factory where they're growing all kinds of leafy vegetables. And the collaboration is with an Israeli company that has developed a new kind of LED lighting system. And the project is the integration of that LED lighting system, since the lighting can be really expensive and the energy consumption can be really high. So the Israeli company called Jugano has integrated their LED lighting system into the vertical farm of Aero Farms. And it's just a really cool place to visit, and I got to go there. And I've even seen their leafy green arugula sold in supermarkets, which was also very cool.
If I can piggyback on that answer, for Onvector, you know, we are definitely looking at vertical farming as an additional segment. It's closely connected, right? I mean, drip irrigation, they are able to irrigate very efficiently, but those can be large farms. And then if you look at greenhouses and then vertical farming in particular, you know, the water needs are profound, right? They recycle their water, you know, in these hydroponic, aeroponic type of applications. I mean, Aero Farms being one of the largest in the world, in the US, they're up and coming so fast. But, you know, there are others in New York, like Bowery and these other vertical farming companies that are rapidly growing. You know, we are certainly targeting or looking at those as a secondary market application for our technology.
Hello, Joshua Wynn, second year MBA here at business school. So technical question for Dan. So plasma is something like what, 10,000 plus degrees Fahrenheit? How on earth do you actually put it in a vortex and not boil the water and blow up a pipe?
So great question. There's hot plasmas and then so-called cold plasmas or non-thermal, quasi-thermal plasmas. When, basically a neon light is a plasma, right? So, your fluorescent lights are also plasmas. They're not necessarily 10,000 degrees. If you can energize a gas, and it depends on the electrogeometry, what gas you have, and the power supply design, you can ionize any gas and they can be cold to the touch. Our plasmas are at around 2000 Kelvin at the surface of the arc filament, like at the surface of the plasma, but the bulk heating of the water is minimal. So the actual water temperature does only goes up maybe 1 degree or so per cycle. So it's a great question, but there's not that much bulk heating in our systems.
Thank you, sir. Thinking of startups, I just want to find out how is the barrier to new entrants? How is it like starting up in this clean tech industry? How hard it is for new entrants to come in, and is it capital intensive?
I think that's a very, very good question. Generally speaking, like hard tech, electromechanical devices are much more capital intensive than, say, software and apps, for instance, or any IT based solution. So there's no question that it is more capital intensive, and there are barriers to entry. Every industry is a little different. In water, I would say that my industry is pretty conservative, right? Water is mission critical, and people don't want to necessarily take risks with their water treatment systems. You have to prove it out fully, and partnering, I think, goes a long way. So we've been very active in developing partnerships. My philosophy is just partner early and often, right? And especially in this hard tech, clean tech, I think that's the key to gaining acceptance is credibility through partnering.
Hi, my name is Jaden, and I know Mr. Cho has been speaking a lot. I have a question for Onvector. You said that your product is going to be put out mostly through other companies, and I was wondering what kind of agreements this would look like, or is this more of like someone getting their product into a supermarket and using the supermarket's supply chain to get it to customers?
Thank you for that question. It depends. It always depends on the actual relationship with a specific partner. But I think generally it's fair to say, that we would engage in exclusive licenses when necessary. So when you have a partner that's big enough and that has significant market share within their segment, it's okay to give an exclusive license. We want to. Just sharing a little bit of internal thought process. We want to manufacture the electronics, through contract manufacturing, just to maintain, some brick and mortar component of our offering and not license everything exclusively. But we're very open to our partners building like reactors and fluid handling devices. They're very, very good at that, so that type of hybrid model is what we're pursuing through license agreements.
Question for you, Andrea. So for Bird, the whole concept of like risk sharing and also partnering for funding, both public and private, is very innovative and like it seems great. Has it spawned other initiatives like Bird for like other countries too? And second question, if I may. So currently it's in like practically every single industry except for defense. Where do you see the future of Bird? Where else can it expand, or what else do you think it should do?
So both very good questions. So as far as other programs like Bird, there are on the Israeli side specific to the risk sharing mechanism, and where it's all kind of 50-50. Israel has a few of them. They have one with Singapore. There's a Canada, Israel. They have programs with Germany and India. So there's certainly other ones. As far as the United States, BIRD is unique with a US model with other countries. So the US provides a lot of aid to other countries. So they're kind of more on the giving side. But I haven't really seen a program where the US is an equal partner in a risk-sharing type of mechanism with another country. So in that way, for the United States, it's certainly unique. And I think a testament to the relationship the United States has with the state of Israel as far as a 50-50 cost share. As far as other areas, well, we do have these two other programs, the energy program, the Homeland Security program. Specific to the energy program, I definitely see more programming in the area of climate change. So, and in fact, in the upcoming program, we've identified the area of carbon capture and seeking technologies that can really make a difference and contribute to to carbon capture and using that as a way to improve the climate emergency. So that's one area. Other than that, I think, in general, in terms of trends and where Israel can contribute, anything in the areas of artificial intelligence, machine learning, predictive analytics. So I'm almost seeing that as this common theme of in all industry sectors. So it's not a specific industry sector. I would say that these would be enabling technologies that I'm seeing a great number of them. I look at Israel, obviously, I'm sure in many countries around the world, but certainly in Israel, there's these enabling technologies of artificial intelligence, machine learning, predictive analytics, automation, and especially since COVID, where companies were lacking workers. So I would say we're seeing companies lacking workers in agriculture, especially. So the area of automation, the area using drones, anything that would allow factories to be able to continue to produce without without the workforce that they would that they need. So that's what I see happening recently, and especially since COVID.
But I think what related to water that we didn't talk about is Israel excel in I would call it in the section of agtech which relate to the seeds. What they call it in Israel, seed breeding. It's actually creating seeds with certain characteristics to fit the type of land or the type of water that the country has. So very early on, Israel developed seeds that you can plant in an area that they have salty water or brackish water. So you can raise tomatoes and other vegetables, but not 100% fresh sweet water, but slightly salty. And that's seed engineering in a sense. This is highly popular and highly developed in Israel as well.
I'll just ask a question or make a comment. I was looking at a piece in the New York Times today about how Intel makes its chips. And they're opening a new facility in Arizona. But it's a very interesting article, and it sort of shows you video-wise how these chips are made and what the facilities look like. They were saying that they use 1 million gallons of water a day to make chips. And the world now lives and dies by these chips. They're in our phones, they're in our cars, they're in our homes, in every which way. So my question is, do you see, and you've mentioned this a little bit, the partnering of companies such as this that rely so heavily on water technology, partnering with companies that deliver water technology. So Intel has facilities in Israel and they're making their chips there and they're still managing the water situation. So do you see what Israel is doing coming to other countries that have similar water needs for industrial production?
There are companies, not just Israel, but around the world, that treat industrial wastewater or water that are used for manufacturing. By the way, there is an Israeli company in the Boston area called Desalitech that was bought by DuPont 2 years ago, and they specialized in industrial water treatment with a very successful technology. And with a very high rate of water saving and saving energy and reduction of maintenance. Because of time, I didn't present them as well in my presentation, so I dropped them out. But yeah, yes, those technologies that treat industrial water do exist, and slowly they are capturing, more and more clients.
I'll just add that Desalitech received BIRD funding for their first project when they entered the US in Boston, that they did in piloting it with GE Water. So we were happy to hear how they've progressed and succeeded.
I'd like to thank you all so much for this incredible presentation. I think that what the BIRD Foundation has been doing is amazing in building these partnerships and funding them. And I think that our students have learned a lot today. So thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
And being part of the Business of Climate Change Week here at the International Business School.